order the meeting of the Board of City Commissioners, December 5th, 2011. Call roll, please.
Stevens.
Here.
Sims.
Here.
Harrod.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Collier.
Here.
Winteringer.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. The invocation tonight will be given by Don Lynch, followed by the flag salute. All who wish to, please rise.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we come before you this evening with thanksgiving for all the blessings that you've bestowed upon us. As we go about the work of creating and maintaining and doing the governance work in this great city, we'd ask that you would be with us, that the actions that we would take here would be pleasing unto you, and that as we leave here this evening, will you go with us, keep us safe. We'll give you the praise and the glory. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Attention, position, pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Don. Item number 1, consider recess of Board of City Commissioners to convene Shawnee Municipal Authority.
We need a motion on that.
I guess so. Yeah. All right, a motion by Commissioner Harrod
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Sims. Call roll, please.
Harrod.
Aye.
Sims.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Winteringer.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, I will open up the Shawnee Municipal Authority meeting, December 5th, 2011. We have a quorum. Item number 1. Consider and take action with respect to a resolution authorizing the Shawnee Municipal Authority, to issue its Sales Tax Revenue Note Series 2011A in the aggregate principal amount of $1,885,000, the 2011A note, and Sales Tax Revenue Note Taxable Series 2011B in the aggregate principal amount of $1,960,000, the 2011B note, and together with the 2011A note, the notes, waiving competitive bidding and authorizing the notes to be sold on a negotiated basis, approving and authorizing execution of a sales tax agreement by and between the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, the city, and the authority pertaining to a year-to-year pledge of certain sales tax revenue, approving and authorizing execution of a note indenture, authorizing the issuance and securing of the payment of the notes, providing that the organizational document creating the authority is subject to the provisions of the note indenture, authorizing and directing the execution of the notes and other documents related to the transaction, establishing the authority's reasonable expectation with respect to the issuance of a tax-exempt obligations by the authority in calendar year 2011, and designating the 2011A note as a qualified tax-exempt obligation, and containing other provisions related thereto. So, yes, please.
I'll let the attorneys get up here and talk about the details of it, but I have the bids here that came in on the note. We were a couple weeks ago. We decided to go out for bids on the notes. The 2011A was going to be the tax exempt portion, and it was for the $1,885,000. And then the 2011B, the taxable portion, which would be the Expo improvement, was $1,960,000. Towards the end of last week, sounded like there might be a second alternative on the taxable portion. So we just also sent out a bid packet for a taxable portion for a $2,365,000 amount. We ended up sending out to 7 financial institutions. We received 5 bids back. and I'll just hand out the sheets. And as you see on the top, Chase was the low bid on both the taxable piece and the tax exempt piece. 1.55% on the tax exempt, 2.45 on the taxable. That's way under our projections on what it was going to be. And I mean, actually, that's the lowest rate I've ever gotten, specifically on a five-year deal. So. And same with the taxable. We don't do as many taxables. We do tax exempt, but amazingly low rates. So I think there's some details we need to work out, but as bids go, you got very good responses. 5 bids is on the high end a lot of times on something of this transaction. Any questions?
The only question I have is about where we got our numbers, because that winds up being $3,845,000, right?
Right.
On the, you're talking about,
$3,845,000.
Yeah.
$3,845,000. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I thought we was originally talking about 165 on the, or 1,650,000 on the one, and I wasn't sure about the 1,960,000. But that winds up.
Commissioner, I'll be happy to address that.
Okay.
We had gotten a call from staff Friday afternoon, I guess. Maybe your bids had come in a little higher on some of the work at the Expo Center, asking if we could up the size of the taxable deal to consider getting a bid in the alternative for either the original amount, the $1,960,000, or the taxable piece bumping it to $2,365,000. So basically, we got those financial institutions to give us bids in the alternative. In other words, taxable piece, it's either this amount or this higher amount, okay? Purely at the commission's discretion, if you want to accept that higher amount or if you want to go with the lower amount. But it was kind of a last minute deal, but we put it in there. You're certainly not in any manner obligated to go with that higher dollar amount. In fact, it happened so late in the game, we had a snafu in terms of which dollar amount ended up on the agenda, okay? And it's just nobody's fault, but it ended up that way. So we're going to end up needing an additional authority approval if you go with that higher dollar amount anyway. In other words, another meeting to deal with that. So just, I'll make you aware of that. But again, we can go either direction. The bids will be good depending on what your pleasure is.
But when you talk about the higher dollar amount, you're talking about the 1.9 versus the 2.3.
Yes, $1,960,000
Right.
went to $2,365,000, and the tax exempt piece, which was always at $1,885,000, stayed there. So your total combined loan amount, if you go with the higher option, is increased by $405,000 over what we had talked about initially.
But the exempt, just the basic 1,885 plus 1,960 is larger than what I thought we had agreed to for this note. I mean, just like James just said.
it might be the refunding.
Yeah, if you'll recall, when we visited a couple weeks ago, you had directed $1.9 million in project costs for the Expo Center. And so with transaction costs, the sizing of that was $1,960,000.
Okay.
You also directed, do the math in my head real quick, $1,350,000 in project costs that included new library roof, $250,000, airport walking trail reconstruction of $400,000, new cemetery building of $500,000, and fire apparatus of $200,000. And when we came and visited, we also talked about your existing water board note, Series 1997B, that if it were refunded in connection with doing these other transactions, it could actually generate some reasonable savings with respect to the debt service there, and you could do that kind of on the same term. And so that's where that additional roughly $500,000 is coming from is the refunding of that other note.
By virtue of the difference in interest rates, I mean, when we looked at this financing earlier, we were projecting what rates were going to be. Well, rates came in significantly under that. Your savings on that transaction went up from about $38,000 to about $52,000 just based upon that lower tax exempt interest rate. So, again, everything's positive, okay? And I'm glad Nate said that, because there's been so many twists and turns in this deal. But yes, with the only difference from what we talked to you about last time is you have the option, if you want it, to add that $405,000 basically to the size of the taxable deal to cover more improvements at the Expo Center.
Can we add to that and reduce the tax exempt?
We did not bid the tax exempt and the alternative. In other words, the entity that bid the tax exempt assumed that amount of debt. And so, short answer is no, we can't, without going back and rebidding. Again, on the taxable, they bid it in the alternative where you could either go with a smaller amount or the larger amount.
So $400,000 is gonna cost us about $28,000 or $9,000. The difference in the interest rate there.
Correct. Over 5 years, yes.
So we based the Expo parking lot then on a price of 1.3 million instead of what it came in at on the bids. Is that what that 196 is? 1,960,000.
I think your options are, I mean, you can do the project budget however you want to. I mean, whatever you determine is the appropriate size, dollar amount of the project is ultimately up to you. Your options with respect to financing it are, you could fund 1.9 million of it from proceeds of this note, and to the extent that there's project costs beyond that, you would fund that through other available funds of the city or the authority. Or you could borrow a larger amount, and then that is gonna reduce the amount of funds that you've got to contribute on a cash basis.
Or do less project at the Expo Center.
If you fund these projects, you sell the bonds and they come in $200,000 under budget, what about the extra money? What happens to it?
You could use that for additional project costs out there.
Due to the nature of the taxable financing, you can essentially use that for, I mean, almost any purpose you could use your sales tax for. I mean, we don't have much in the way of restriction on that. The purchaser contemplates it's going to be used at the Expo Center, and it sounds like you've probably got more project at the Expo Center than you potentially can do anyway.
So, what if you said, if we accept the higher amount of $2,365,000, what'd you say we'd have to do?
Well, because we had $1,960,000 on the agenda, and assuming everybody was wanting to go with that amount, we'd go ahead and approve it on the city level, okay? Which we didn't have an amount on the agenda, and which would be an indication to the purchaser that you're going to come back in a couple of days, have a special meeting, and approve it on the authority side. And at that point, I mean, if we told them the city approved it, we're going to have a special meeting in 2 days as an example to have the authority approve it based upon just an issue with the agenda, they said they'd hold the rate.
But that means our note is 3.65 instead of 3.25. Because we can't go down on the other one. Or could we go down on the other one? You would just have to rebid it. The 1.885.
And that's what we talked about when we're out. We've gone to basically every major financial institution in the state and telling them, and they all done their due diligence, and spend a lot of time and energy, and then we're gonna go back and say,
Okay.
it's not a good idea.
Probably reasonable to say they might not be as aggressive
They might
in their,
not
with
bid.
their interest rates the next time, if they bid at all.
I'd move it, we accept the 2011 B at, I mean, the 2000, whatever the A is at 1,885,000, and the higher rate, or come back next week and approve the 2,365,000. That special meeting, or what do we need to do? Is that in order, Mrs. Carnes?
I don't, do you want him to approve it, or do you want him to reach a consensus and come back and give formal
Well, I mean,
approval, or instruct us to
we're-
come
we're-
back?
We're getting ready to go to the city meeting, and so you're gonna approve it
Approve.
there, and, I mean, again, we're gonna have to have 6 yes votes either way we go on
Okay,
both
so
bodies.
what we probably need for you to do is the motion you made works, right? And then we'll just ratify it with a special meeting.
We'll come back with another meeting
Okay.
before we close the transaction, if you want to go ahead and vote on that.
Okay. Then that motion's acceptable.
I have a motion on the table to approve the 1 point,
Hey, Mayor, can I interrupt
Yes.
you? I just don't want to get anybody into trouble here, okay? I mean, probably shouldn't vote on it in the authority meeting, okay? We're clearly agended on the city meeting. When you vote on the city meeting, that'll be our indication of what the authority, same people are going to do when we re-agenda it. But, I mean,
So
again,
that's fine with me, whatever you want to do.
Donna's here. She can go make some changes if that.
No, it's the agenda, it's the posting problem. So instead of taking any action now, go back to the city, and in the city's motion, put in the 2.365.
Right, the agenda's fine there, we don't have an
Okay.
issue. And then, like I said, we'll kind of poll everybody if that is approved. I mean, what you might want to do is, to the extent, I don't know how that vote's going to come out, so we might just end up, maybe even in this meeting, recessing this meeting, going into the city meeting and voting on it. If you don't have the votes to do it, I just don't know what your consensus is among the commission. So depending on what the city does, then if we end up with a lower dollar amount, then we're fine from the agenda.
Okay, then my
standpoint.
advice is that we determine the motion out of order because of the posting problem. You can use the power of the chair without a vote to recess back to city commission, and we can finish this, and then later, when you come back to SMA, we'll set the special meeting if we need one.
depending on how the vote goes. in
Depending
the
how the
city.
vote goes in the city.
I
Does
think
that work?
That's great
Okay.
advice.
We will do that then. Is that okay? So we will recess the SMA and go back to the city commission meeting.
So can we go directly, is that item 12?
Yes.
Do we need to reconvene the Board of City Commissioners? Item number 2.
You can go directly to item 12. You also can control the agenda with the power of the chair.
That's right.
Well, we hadn't approved the agenda anyhow.
No, we haven't.
Okay.
Yeah.
You need to do that.
Let's item number 2 is consider reconvening Board of City Commissioners.
So
I need to
moved.
do that, power of the chair.
Huh?
You
I can
need to
do
do
that.
that, power of the chair.
Okay,
We're
or the
gonna cut
chair
down
will
some of this voting.
reconvene.
Now you can consider approval.
Item
of
number
it.
3, consider approval of agenda.
I'd move move number 12 to, in the place of number 4 and move them down so we can get that taken care of.
All right, I have a motion to place item number 12 next on the agenda by Commissioner Harrod. Do I have a second? Second. Okay, I have a second by Commissioner Stevens. Any discussion about this?
So this is just to bring the
Yeah, it's just to move it up.
SMA thing up, okay.
All right. Call roll, please.
Harrod.
Aye.
Stevens. Sims.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier. Winteringer. Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, item number, wait a minute. We're going to 12. Hold on, wait a minute. I'm locked up, there it is. Was the motion to put it before 4 or after 4?
Next item on the
Make the
agenda.
next
That's
item.
what I thought.
Actually,
So-
probably should have been 12, 13, and 14, and 11, and 10.
So we go to 12 now.
Is that the one that deals with
That's the one, okay? Item number 12, consider and take action with respect to a resolution approving the incurrence of indebtedness by the Shawnee Municipal Authority, the authority issuing its sales tax revenue note, Series 2011A, the 2011A note, and sales tax revenue note, taxable Series 2011B, the 2011B note, and together with the 2011A note, the notes, providing that the organizational document creating the authority is subject to the provisions of the note indenture, authorizing the issuance of said notes, waiving competitive bidding with respect to the sale of said notes, and approving the proceedings of the authority pertaining to the sale of said notes. Approving and authorizing execution of a sales tax agreement by and between the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, the city, and the authority pertaining to the year-to-year pledge of certain sales tax revenues. Establishing the city's reasonable expectation with respect to the issuance of tax-exempt obligations by or on behalf of said city in calendar year 2011, and designating the 2011A note as a qualified tax-exempt obligation, declaring an emergency and containing other provisions related thereto.
If I could,
Okay.
the appropriate motion would be to approve the city resolution that would contemplate the $1,855,000 in tax exempt debt and the amount of your choosing, $1,960,000 or $2,365,000 of taxable debt in connection with this transaction with the purchaser on both of those obligations being J.P. Morgan.
Phyllis, you got that?
I'll go back and listen to the tape if I
All right.
have to.
Well, I want to make it for the $2,365,000.
To Chase, right?
Yes.
To Chase.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor for the exempt note of $1,885,000 and the taxable note of $2,365,000 to Chase. Was that your motion?
Yes.
Okay, by Commissioner Harrod. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second by Vice Mayor Collier. Any discussion? I have a question. So this puts our payments at approximately $730,000 a year versus our $650,000 a year.
Now
Or
remember
3.2.
correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, but part of these are based on SMA revenues and part of them are based on,
Yeah, we just went from 3.2 million to 3.65 million. On the 400,000 addition. The 60,000 here and a 65, but we basically went up 400,000. So we went from having a debt service payment every year of 650,000 to now having one of 730,000. Is that correct?
Can you give us a second to collaborate on that?
Okay.
From how much? Higher?
I thought it was 650,000 is where we were with 3.2.
Okay, your,
How much?
730, give or take, okay? We've been maxed out at 750.
We got, if they're setting that up at 1,886,000, that means we're full funding the fire apparatus.
Yeah, but we can't take that down to do something different with it, like do more like the
I know.
expo and then not do the fire or not do something like that.
What I'm saying is we're saving $200,000.
Okay. The difference, the combined total at the lower amount, the combined total borrowing is $3,845,000. That's including the refinancing, including related costs of issuance. The debt service on that, the average annual payment would be about $827,000 a year, of which about $105,000 is relating to the refinancing component. So your net debt service under that scenario would be about 722 or so in new debt service on an annual basis. At the higher amount on the taxable side, your combined borrowing would be $4,250,000. The total, or the average annual debt service would be about $917,000. Again, subtracting out the 105, so your combined new debt service would be $812,000, roughly. So we're going from 722 to 812.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Okay.
Just a minute.
No, it was gonna be, I was thinking about 650,000 when we first did it. That was without the interest and everything that we've been having, but evidently that was 722 to 812 now. That's out of the third penny payment.
Let's see, because
What?
The 1,960,000 doesn't get us even to our original price.
Of what?
I mean,
For
the-
projects?
Yeah, 1.3 million, 550,000, 250,000. Time you take whatever other debt service is in there.
I need to find the original memo.
I
You
had
have
it,
it
but I don't
there.
have it printed now.
and I think as Chris pointed out earlier, you know, remember there's a larger difference. Part of that's relative to the principal amount, or most of it's relative to the principal amount that you're borrowing. The actual difference in interest cost, if you go with a higher amount, it's about $28,000 in additional interest costs that you incur over 5 years.
That's what I read it as.
That's total over the 5 years.
Yeah, that's the total amount over 5 years.
So
What are our other options to completing the expo projects?
As in outside of this particular financing vehicle?
is it,
Several other options. I mean, commissioners have committed money out of our third penny capital fund pretty consistently, in the neighborhood of about $100,000 a year, for which the expos use that for fans and restroom improvements and some smaller things out there. With some of the commissioners also should know that we could raise the percentage hotel tax, and we could put money into the expo from that increase. We could commit additional dollars out of the third penny toward the expo to complete some of the projects. So there are some other options there, if that answers your question, Mayor.
oh, we still, maybe we haven't commitment yet from the county for their 200,000, or what's the situation on that?
Commitment from we're meeting with the county tomorrow, actually, for some additional dollars. Pot County Home Finance has agreed to $59,000. So I mean, I don't know what your question is, Commissioner, but
Well, I mean, do we have is it hard, and we have a written agreement, or is it still up in the air?
nothing written yet that I'm
Okay.
aware of, sir.
So basically, at the 1.96 million, we just have to trim the three priorities at the expo if we chose to go with the 1.96.
Well, we're in an interesting, I hope this will answer your question. We're in a little bit of an interesting situation because we bid the Expo project out sort of simultaneously with a lot of this financing stuff. So normally you don't necessarily have a bid staring you in the face with an ad alternate while you're trying to approve financing. We estimate as best we can with these projects, and we get people out there that give us basic prices without bidding the project. You know, copper's expensive. That's what's going to go into the project when we do the electrical.
That's what I'm
And
worried
it
about.
changes every day, just like oil prices do. So, Commissioner, I can't guarantee what the prices are going to be on each of those bid items. And when whatever projects end up being, we've sort of been given instructions that we do the parking lot, we do the RV spaces, and we do the restrooms. And then the rest of them have not necessarily been prioritized by the commissioners to us. As soon as we do that, we will then work on those projects and get numbers. And
Well, the top three, though, the expo stuff is the 1.96. So it really doesn't make any difference what's below that line,
right,
And the refinancing is in that, right?
not in the 196. So what is,
I'm sorry.
so where are we right now with the bid on the expo parking lot with the ad alternate? What's the total dollar amount?
1.7 million.
1.68 something, but
Okay, so 1.7, and you've got roughly 250 committed?
Or
Okay.
200.
Well, plus 56 from
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
from the housing authority.
I just, I mean, I don't know if I can answer your question, Commissioner, because each of these projects are gonna be bid out individually, and so you're right, there are two lines. There are one line for the taxable notes, and then another line for the non-taxable notes. Both of them have a floor in terms of, or ceiling, whichever way you wanna look at it, in terms of dollars, but we can only spend so much of each one.
So if, let me ask the attorneys this, if it comes in that we need some of the, I guess some of the 1,885,000, can we use part of that for the expo? No.
That's really kind of what I was saying. Can we just reduce that amount and increase the taxable?
Well, the $28,000 difference doesn't sound like much over 5 years, which is about less than $6,000 a year, but according to these figures, that's not the way it works out. Is that correct?
From 812 to 722.
Well, again, that includes, you're borrowing an additional 400,000. So if you look at, 80 to 90,000 in principal each year, plus the interest cost, that's where your 90,000 difference comes.
Yes, yes.
I see, I'm sorry.
And my concern is the years that we've had the higher debt service payments, we've had less on capital and streets, because that's really kind of come first. And we went through quite a few years of that. Sometimes our debt service was probably up around $1 million, but it's more recently been around 750,000. So it will eventually come out of something. I mean, if we ended up taking this, then we have $812,000 paying that debt service. So we have a little bit less that will go into either or capital purchases or streets. That was my concern about keeping that at a manageable level.
So our debt service payment's about 750 now.
It was, yes.
We only had to budget for half this year because we only had half a year's worth of debt. The only other thing that I'll point out, Commissioners, is, and this is not, and I'm not advocating for increasing the debt service or decreasing it, but it's been a little bit painful in some of our minds of late because of the amount that we put aside for Kickapoo every year so that we can have our match for that. So if that helps any. No. Okay.
So what are you thinking about, Mayor?
Throw it out there.
Will there be any economies in doing a larger project versus, in other words, by adding the 400 in, do you capture prices today that are more affordable than maybe they would be over time? Again, I don't have a dog in this hunt either, whatever you guys decide, in terms of just trying to get the ideas out there. I think part of the theory was, as opposed to doing a little bit of this each year on a pay-as-you-go basis, try to do a project and capture construction costs where they are, so.
I think that is a concern, and I think the fact that the bid came in with the ad alternate, very good, and we ought to do it all at the same time. But with the original financing, we don't, because of the split, we don't have enough there. The priorities were to do that, do those projects fully, which might be $2 or $3 million at the expo.
Right.
But that's not how the financing was looked at, and that's not what's in front of us right now. So it looks like we either have to keep all the projects on the table and one just grew and we're going to have to pay for it, or either we don't do that project to the level that we all thought we were going to get it done. So that's, I mean, it's just a dilemma right now. We were trying to hold a cap of borrowing at
I'll tell you,
3.2.
I'll throw out one other option, okay? I can see if I can get a representative of a low bidder on the phone, all right? And just say, if we want to slide some portion of the tax exempt to the taxable at the same rates that you bid, would you allow us to do that? And I don't know if they can answer that question on the phone, on the fly. Now granted, we had other parties bid on it, but frankly, we have one bank that was lower on both. And so if we decide to slip from one to the other, I don't think, I mean, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to pick the low bidder, all right? We went through a competitive process, all right? We want to bring to you the lowest possible rate, and we did. I don't know if they'd be willing to do that or can answer that, but if you would want to give me a second to make a phone call, I hadn't done this before, so all I can do is try to reach somebody. I mean, we're talking about a national bank, and I don't know if the person I'm going to talk to has sign-off power, so.
All I can say is I feel like if we don't do it, do the expo and do the parking lot and do the electrical and so forth and do it right and do a good job of it, then we're going to reduce that income, our tax income, more than that. So I think that there's $62,000 a year, and the expo center ought to generate, through its improvements, a payment back in part of that. And if it's not all of it over the 5-year period, I think it will. So I think we'll just let it stand and do the projects, and we've had wind up with $200,000 left over, then we can do something else out there. And there's plenty of room, plenty of things that need to be done in the parking lots, and not just the ones that we're doing now, but the other parking lots out there. So I stay with my motion, and it's like I said, it's $62,000 in interest. And everybody in here that's connected to the expo and the city and so forth, we ought to be able to generate additional sales tax by getting the parking lots and stuff fixed.
Any other discussion or questions?
Do what?
I can read it if I have it.
Have to have Phyllis read it to you, because I can't read it.
Regarding the SMA note, I have a motion from Commissioner Harrod, a second from Commissioner Collier, Vice Mayor Collier, to approve the $1,885,000 and the taxable note to Chase in the amount of $2,365,000. Is that
$2,365,000, yes, ma'am. That's correct.
365?
So if, I have a question. If we vote for that, Could you still maybe make a deal to where we move some of this money over?
I mean.
Is that set us in stone?
If we vote for that, we'll leave it that way. I mean, again, it's one that we just, I mean, we've got too many signs. We push down one key and two others pop up. I mean, I don't know if I can get, I've never even tried doing that before. And again, we're talking, it'd be different if we're talking about, a bank where I could call the president. He said, no problem. But I mean, I'm happy to do it. But if you guys go this way, then I'd leave that alone.
You have to
Let's-
have 6 votes too.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Sir. Yes,
Let
sir.
me, I'm not inclined to vote for a higher amount right now if we think that there's an option on the table that you might be able to make a
You
phone
want to
call.
give me a second?
If that's in order.
Yeah, and if we have to come back anyways.
Well, we're not, if we do this tonight, you're not
If
going to
we-
come back.
Well, yeah, you're going to come back to the
We're gonna have to come back
SMA.
for SMA.
Maybe, unless
If
you
we-
do
if
the
we
lower
do the-
amount, in which case you do the SMA tonight.
Yeah.
What you might want to do is leave this item, go to another item while he makes a phone call.
Choose something else that might be
Take something else.
Yeah.
These minutes are gonna be a mess.
The reason is because it's financed through SMA.
Can we leave this item and go to the consent agenda?
You have a motion and a second on the floor, or we just table,
Can we table, table item 12, or council can come back?
Yes, you can do that.
Can I do that, or can I do a motion?
Need a motion to lay it aside.
I make the motion, I make that motion that we lay aside this until we get further information this evening.
I second that motion.
Okay. Did you get that? Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Winteringer. Okay, call roll, please.
Smith,
Aye.
Winteringer,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
Sims,
Aye.
Harrod,
Right.
Peterson,
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. How about item number 4? Consider approval of consent agenda.
Move to approve.
I want to take item F.
Okay. All right. Have a motion to approve
Without item F.
minus item F. Anybody else want to pull anything?
Second.
How about a second? You have a second? Second by Commissioner Harrod. Call roll, please.
Sims,
Aye.
Harrod,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Collier,
Aye.
Winteringer,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, item 4F.
I just kind of well, we approved $600,000, I think, for this item. And of course, I've been thinking about that quite a bit since we've done it, and that seemed like a chunk of money for a, what do you call it?
Study.
Comprehensive master plan.
Study.
Seems like, Jim, do you have any idea what we're talking about now, or?
No, this item is just so we can negotiate, we'll build a scope of services and then negotiate a price, so this is, after this step, we'll know more about.
So you don't have any kind of feel how much you're talking about, or where the starting figure's gonna be, or anything like that?
No, we discussed several different, over the year, the 600,000, 300,000 one year, 300,000 the next year, but we don't know until we negotiate. And then even once we negotiate, we have the scope of services. If we have to back off of some of the scope of services, we can do that. I mean, it's.
Well, I
it's
was
just a
kind of advised, I don't know how the rest of the commissioners feel, but I don't, it's going to be very difficult for me to support 600,000, for a master plan, I can be honest with you.
And what started this master plan idea was that we were doing, there's several things we want to do. The yield study was one. The water plant, try to get it upgraded. Well, if you take those a piece, it's like buying a car a piece at a time. You'll have over $1 million tied up in these little separate things when it's more cost effective just to do the whole plan and get it more bang for your buck, even though it is a lot of money. If you piecemeal it, it's a lot more money.
This was also mapping of water line sizes and that.
Yeah, it's
the complete deal.
It's the complete deal. It's evaluating all the plants, the hydraulic model of the water lines, the sewer lines, the lift stations, the whole ball of wax.
Which, as I understood at the time, that was the whole point, was to know whether we needed to replace a 10-inch line with a 10-inch line, or whether it needed to be a 16-inch line. As we,
And placement of a water tower and things like that,
Yeah.
I thought.
I'm not questioning that. I'm just
Okay.
telling you, that seems like a chunk of money, $600,000 for a study. I'd move we approve and let them go ahead and negotiate, but if it comes back something like that, I'm gonna have a hard time selling it to me.
Okay, wait, I still have a question, Jim. So we have a motion on the floor to approve staff to negotiate with Smith Roberts, Baldwin LLC,
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Sims. Okay, so discussion on this. If you enter into negotiations, part of that is scope of service too, though, isn't it?
We'll develop a scope of service first and then negotiate, which I hope to do that pretty quick.
Okay, okay, then you'll be able to bring back to us, hopefully, what the cost of each of those items would be, and be able to prioritize that, and whether it was 300,000 or 900,000, we'll be able to look at it and go from there, right? I mean, this doesn't authorize you to spend anything, just to
Well, I understand.
No,
take
it's
the next
just-
step. Okay. Okay,
I understand that thoroughly.
okay.
There were several other people on the list. Can you give me a brief reason why you went with this company as opposed to the
They
others?
just stood out. I think got 7 proposals. We interviewed 3 companies, and they just stood out with the committee, or whatever you want to call it. They just stood out to us to be the better, at least the one we want to start with. We can negotiate with them and maybe not come to an agreement and go to another company, but they kind of unanimously stood out to everybody.
Okay.
Any other questions? Call roll, please. Thank you, Jim.
Harrod,
Aye.
Sims.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Winteringer. Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 5, citizens' participation.
I notice we're once again talking about the Tourism Advisory Council, and I just wanted to say to all of you something similar to what I said to the mayor in an email today, that I think if you are considering any changes at all, it would be an egregious oversight to not consider input, at least from the hotel operators. At the last meeting, I kept getting a sense that you felt like this was your money and it's your decision. And really, if anyone can lay a claim to this money, this tax, it's those hotel operators. And I haven't, at any of the Tourism Advisory Council meetings, seen any clamoring coming forward to change anything. I haven't heard any complaints. It's a system that is working, and in the years I've been here and trying to pay attention to that stuff, it's generally increased. And the number of hotel rooms have increased. You know, there was kind of a sense at the last meeting as well that, well, you're just doing your job, and it's time to look at this. But if you're just doing your job now, that infers that up until now you haven't been. No questions when the annual reports came forward, no attendance at the Tourism Advisory Council meetings, no letters asking for information. So again, I understand you're going to form the commission or the committee. I hope it works, but really, I hope you also have an understanding that of all the things in this city that you do, this is one of the very few that works well and has shown constant improvement and has shown demonstrable results.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Daniel Shawnee. I'd like to take this opportunity to voice my support for you, Mayor, Commissioners, on the difficult job you have accomplished in this information gathering process that has led to the ballot proposals tonight. In my experiences, by closely following your progress over the last 4 months, you have been open to constructive ideas, dialogues, and compromise with individual citizens, the SEDF and Chamber of Commerce, and the Shawnee Public School System. Examples of such willingness to work together with others, all of whom are important, I feel are worth pointing out. Since August, as many as 4 constructive meetings have occurred between members of this commission and the administration of Shawnee Public Schools, both sides intelligently considering possibilities and trying to establish some grounds to work together in the future. Since August, as many as 4 attempts by this commission has been made to dialogue with the chamber leadership. I personally have heard you diligently consider each of their stipulations and heard sound reasons why you have compromised to meet certain ones of them, like increasing request for street funding by 260% and by removing a new police station from consideration until a future date. I also understand why you have thought it best to remain consistent in other funding areas. I am particularly appreciative that you have never acquiesced to their demand to place the lowest priority on the needs of our kids. You have realized that 12 years ago, studies showed a need of $16 million for youth park facilities in Shawnee. That was at the turn of the century. You realize that many in our community not only support a youth and family park facility, but have been screaming for one for nearly 20 years. You realize that offering anything less than a complete park means at least one sector of our youth is continuing to be deprived of proper facilities, and by offering the best facility, potential revenues generated are well in excess of maintenance needed in the new park and can help our older parks as well. As far back as 2.5 years ago, I remember attending with other interested community members multiple input sessions on what we desired for our potential park. The meetings I attended were exhaustive and everybody was able to share. I believe you have admirably fought on behalf of us, the silent majority with a desire for the best for our kids. In the August and September listening sessions, you learned about concerns of citizens towards these projects. One in particular that stands out, I recall a young mother, child in her arms, talking about splash parks and their popularity for moms with little kids. And you have adjusted your pool plans to include a great splash park with easy access for families and groups. With only a moment to point out a few of the ways this commission, this team, has fought for the well-being of all of our community, does not do justice for the innumerable volunteer hours each of you have sacrificed for the betterment of all Shawnee. From the bottom of my heart, as a local graduate, a husband, a dad, a businessman that calls Shawnee, Oklahoma home, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, item number 6, City Manager presentation of Oklahoma Municipal League certificates to employees with 25 or more years of service with the City of Shawnee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Jamie, come on up here and help me hand these out.
Michael McClendon, Janice Carr, Rex Hennon, Guadalupe De Leon, Eric Todd Watkins, Curtis Lamastus, Randall Brock, and Michael Merle.
Come on up if you're in the room.
Come on. Come on.
Part of the reason.
Commissioners, we have 8 awards on behalf of the Oklahoma Municipal League, each for a quarter of a century of service to the citizens of the city of Shawnee and various departments at the city. 200 years' worth of service that these folks have put in combined. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you very much. Still moving on. Okay, item number 7, consider lighting proposal from OG&E to provide decorative lights on MacArthur from Kickapoo to Leo.
This item is for y'all to consider a lighting proposal on MacArthur Street, some decorative lights, kind of a continuation of the project we had on the trails from Leo to St. Gregory's Trail. We couldn't put the same kind of lights on MacArthur Street because they need to be more street lights. The ones on from Leo to St. Gregory's is a trails light. It don't really illuminate the street. But this would entail putting in 26 30-foot fluted, what they call black fluted teardrop lights. I had a picture of it in your packet. That's the kind that OG&E will provide. We have met with OBU officials, and they're supportive of this this style and decorative look. And it will go all the way from Leo Street to Kickapoo, and then after the Kickapoo project gets started and is on its way as far as construction, we'll do the similar types lights from MacArthur south to Midland Street. Having said all that, OG&E's proposal up front would be $88,600 to provide all the materials and installation, lighting, lamps, conduit, boring, everything, the whole 9 yards, and then at a $600 monthly charge for the electricity after that. We would recommend approval of the proposal. We believe we have money available in the 302 Street Fund, the unallocated portion of our fund, and we would recommend approval.
Are you gonna relight from, I guess, from the underpass to St. Gregory?
There's three additional poles on the west side. Yeah, it goes from Leo Street all the way to Kickapoo, yes. And proposal 1, this is proposal 2. Proposal 1 was just one side of the street and it didn't illuminate both sides. This gives a better coverage by alternating both sides of the street, so that's why it's labeled as proposal 2.
So is this a replacement of lights that are there right now?
Yes, the existing lights that are there would come down.
Okay, so we already pay for the existing lights that are there?
Yes, we pay monthly charge on those.
Okay, how does this monthly charge compare to what we're paying right now?
It's pretty comparable, actually. I mean, it would
Okay.
be the same. I'd have to go out and count the existing poles, but if we have 26 existing poles out there, that's what, it'd be pretty much the same.
So it's not like we're putting in new ones and then being charged?
No, the cost comes from the decorative feature of the project, which is
Right.
a upfront,
The
one
new.
cost deal.
Motion to approve.
A motion by Commissioner Winteringer to approve this proposal.
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Stevens. Will there be any burial of lines also?
Yes, they'll be all underground. There's no overhead.
Woo-hoo. All right. Okay, nice.
Doesn't necessarily mean the services will be,
Yeah.
it's just a line to
But
do.
these,
Pardon me?
I said that if there's exposed service lines, primary out there, it's not gonna be.
Right, but from pole to pole, there won't be any lines from the poles, these lighted
Right.
fixtures. Everything will go underground to them.
I just tell them for clarification.
yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Call roll, please.
Winteringer.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Sims.
Aye.
Harrod.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. We're ready to go back to item number 12.
I got a strong qualified maybe on the answer, but here's my recommendation, all right? Let the city go ahead and make a motion, shift, an amount that seems reasonable. The less you shift, the easier it's going to be to, say this is not a substantial change. I speculated with the person I was talking to that we were probably talking about shifting, $400,000 to $600,000 possibly from the tax exempt projects to the taxable projects. But I said that, I was going to get back in here. What I'd recommend you do is make a motion and basically shift however much you think is appropriate from the tax exempt to the taxable. We obviously can't shift all of the tax exempt over in the sense that the refunding is in that. But what we'll do is we'll get back and run the traps on this tomorrow. We're going to end up ultimately coming back for a meeting. It sounds like in a couple of days anyway, possibly. But again, maybe not. Why don't you tell me what you want to do, and then we'll go from there.
So if we approve, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead. We have a motion on the table, but go ahead.
Is it back?
Okay. But do you have a question about?
Well, if we have a 1.96 million in taxable, and we're choosing to say pull $500,000 out of the non-taxable and put it into the taxable, and we do that tonight, is there any need for another meeting? In other words, if
again, we had a taxable amount at $1,960,000 that on the authority agenda, right. So it's going to go above that. So what we need there again are no dollar amounts on the city agenda. So you approve what makes sense in terms of how much you want to shift out of the tax exempt to the taxable, if that's your pleasure. We'll approve that at the city side where our agenda item is a little more broad. We'll take that as an approval. We'll go back and get with the bank tonight or in the morning, and they'll work through that. When we come back for the authority approval, we'll have a firm answer.
So without borrowing more money, we can do the 3.8 million, just swapping some dollars from taxable, non-taxable to taxable.
In some respects, you're not borrowing more principal, you're going to be borrowing at a higher interest rate on the taxable side slightly. But again, that's in the overall scheme of things, essentially you're just moving dollars from the tax exempt to the taxable piece. So
you have a motion on the floor that you can withdraw, amend, or vote on, depending on your pleasure.
Can I throw out a suggestion that we take the $405,000 of the increase over the original amount, because it's a stated amount? It's not something we're just pulling out of the air arbitrarily, and focus on that. I realize that the more we try to move, the less likelihood of you guys being able to put it together. But that's a stated amount that makes sense to me, and it's close enough without trying to risk.
Well, it basically takes the dollar amount up to the amount they'd approved in the alternative anyway, and really all we're dealing with then is reducing the tax exempt piece and getting them to agree to that. The second part of this question is going to be which of the tax exempt projects is going off the list, all right? Because when we approve this transaction, we're approving it for specific projects, and so you have a library roof estimated at $250,000, airport walking trail estimated at $400,000, coincidentally, new cemetery building at $500,000, and fire apparatus at $200,000. So one of those, those project amounts are projects are going to need to change.
So you were the second, and you were the motion. All right. Do you want to keep your motion?
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay. It's your pleasure, James.
Let me do a
Still
little tricking
calculating.
here.
Okay,
He's
I
thinking.
understand,
He's
I
thinking.
understand.
I can tell you that shifting roughly 400,000 from the tax exempt over to the taxable is gonna cost you about an additional $10,000 to $11,000 in interest over a total of 5 years. Now, that's not an annual amount, that's a total amount.
So
It's not a huge
Pretty
amount.
insignificant in the overall scheme of things.
But you're actually just saving about $15,000 then. But it's gonna cost you 11 or 12, and you're paying 28 for the additional, so that's,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's,
I don't understand the statement. but-
you're gonna borrow the same amount. What you're doing is, instead of having a smaller project fund on the Expo Center, is you're gonna have a smaller project fund on these other tax exempt projects. So there's gonna be a different project that you don't do as opposed to the ad alternate.
well, my figures don't come up the same with, on the 4 projects. That's 1.8, whatever it is, mine don't add up like that.
And I think we need to be specific and know that we can do,
Well, if you pay library roof 250,000, airport track 400,000, cemetery building 500,000, and squad 1 apparatus at 200,000, that don't add up to 1.8.
That's $1,350,000, and then
Right.
we have the refinance, that's another 500,000 on top of that.
Okay.
that's right.
Well, I'd amend my motion to make it where we take 200,000 out of the, I guess, is 211A, is that the taxable? Or
That's the
non-taxable?
tax exempt.
Out of the tax exempt, and put it with the 1,960 taxable, to make that $1,200,000 or $1,160,000.
So $1,685,000 and $2,160,000.
No,
Why'd you move? Okay. You moved 200,000?
yeah. So that makes that 1,665,000. Add 200,000 on to 1,960,000 makes it 2,160,000.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to make to approve the tax exempt bond or the request at 1.685 million and the taxable B note 2.160 million.
And take 100,000 out of the airport track and $100,000 out of the cemetery building.
Oh, to take it out of that.
But that-
Okay, so that's
Okay.
the motion. Do I have a
These were,
second?
yeah, the expo was prioritized, the others.
Right.
But they're listed.
Right.
Okay, so they, okay.
And again,
Puts
those are,
$200,000 more into the expo.
those are project budgets, so I mean, I don't think you have construction bids on
No.
any of those projects, so certainly within those projects, there's ability to move it around a little bit if you need to, and if you want to do all 4 and you come up $100,000 short, then you find $100,000 from somewhere else to supplement the budget.
But
So
we
certainly
need
you
to
can do
trim
that.
200 off of those 4 items, is that correct?
I had assumed you would drop an item, but yeah, you can certainly trim, if you're gonna
Okay.
reduce the size, you can take 100,000 off each one, that's not a problem.
The cemetery building, frankly, was a big number for what we're building out there. It would be easy to take 200 off of that and move on, because I don't want to jeopardize the track.
Right.
Okay, I agree to that.
But I only have a motion right now. I don't have a second.
You get the correction on it.
For even, for discussion.
So we,
Let's clarify, just real quick, just so we're all thinking the same way.
Thank you.
it's 2.16 million taxable, 1.685 non-taxable.
Non-taxable.
And it's the lower borrowing of, that we contemplated earlier. Okay.
The total.
I will second that.
Okay, so now I have a second by Commissioner Stevens. Okay, My question is 200,000 gonna get us where we need to be?
Well, it's got the interest, interest payments and stuff, for all the total payments back down to, about he says it's gonna cost about 10 grand more, so it's about 750.
Yeah, but is that enough to do is 2.160 enough to do the expo projects that we wanted to do? That's my concern. With only shifting 200,000 over instead of the 400. I mean, I thought we just got one
But
project.
we may not be able to do all of the top three at the expo, depending on how the budgets come in. I mean, we may not be able to do, as an example, the comfort stations for 250,000, depending on where the electrical
Because of this
comes in.
amount right here.
Yeah,
We're just stuck with, we're obligated to spend up to 2.16 million at the expo, whatever that buys. The other projects are standalone.
Well, would you rather have it $400,000 and do away with the cemetery building? I'll agree to that.
Well, I think we've got other revenues coming.
So whatever.
potentially.
I'd rather increase the expo side of it large enough to do the projects that, at least the ones that we have that are bid out right now. And then
Well,
if
that's
one
what
of
I
the
was after.
projects has to fall off, or if all of them have to be trimmed, and maybe we can decide that as they come up and we bid them. But my fear here is that we're not gonna be able to do the projects complete.
Well, we've got, our original estimate was 1.3 million, and they increased it to $200,000, and that makes it 1.5, and then you've got the $200,000 from the county, so that makes it 1.7.
Plus 200,000 for landscaping.
I didn't include any landscape.
Well, it's part of the project.
I wanna see us do the expo and do it right.
I agree.
That's where, I
And
mean,
how
let's
much
do
do
it
we need to
completely,
do?
fully,
But
let's
we-
just fund it.
I know.
But we don't know, the electrical bid is still,
That's what I say, if it'd make everybody happy, let's do 400,000, let's take the cemetery building away. And if you have money there, we gotta get off High Center here somehow.
What's the total we need for all three projects?
Well, we don't know. The only thing we know for sure is how much the parking lot bid is.
I agree, electrical's gone up a lot, probably as much, it's probably $500,000.
Well, they had 550,000 set up for it.
250 and 550,
I don't know.
7, 800, and 1.3, it's 2.1 without the 400,000.
This is what we've got total.
What'd you think?
That was based on the 405.
What's the comfort station?
Let us think about it a little bit.
Linda, what was the comfort station?
Were the comfort stations 250 and the
Yes, ma'am.
electrical was
But those are
550?
estimates. I mean,
I know, it could still be, it could still come in higher than that.
Well, what he's telling you is you can't switch that money around.
Only now.
Well, that's
right
what I'm
now.
trying to do.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, if you wanna make it 400,000, I'll amend my motion, make it 400,000, we'll do it cemetery building.
that you have left over.
I think it's what we're up against if we want to do the projects
Okay.
completely
don't know
right.
that-
But
I amend my
but-
motion. Pam, is that right?
Okay, is the cemetery building really gonna make us any money?
No.
No. I mean, realistic though, a cemetery building is not a revenue generator. The
But
plots are.
It's not always about that, but.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly,
But-
but you know what, the expo is.
Yeah.
If you're gonna buy something out there, you're gonna buy.
Is that 400,000 agreeable with you, Commissioner?
At
Okay.
I
least,
wanna fund the
at least,
expo.
I know.
Right,
Is it gonna be
okay.
enough right there, the $400,000?
But, I mean, you gotta draw the line somewhere.
Leave it back there.
Oh, my God.
I think well, this goes back to hurrying up and racing into something that we're not ready to talk about personally. And I did mention that several months ago when we had to have a
Well,
December 31st deadline of getting.
Well, we had 3.5 months. We discussed something for 3.5 months and nothing changed, so,
And the parking lot still looks like it looks like.
yeah, that's right.
It's horrible, and we need to do it now.
believe that stakes the parking lot.
I call for the question, 400,000.
Okay, we have an amended motion.
Okay, wait a minute.
Motion.
Tell me the amended motion.
Okay, the amended motion is on the exempt 1.445.
445.
Can I make
No.
a suggestion, Mayor? If you're leaning towards 400, you might as well make it 405, and it'll match the numbers exactly
Okay.
that they've already approved.
405.
You know, as long as everybody's playing around here, let me throw my hat in the ring.
All right.
Okay.
That'll work.
That'd get us to a sizing of 2,365,000 by adding 405,000
Okay.
net financing. Okay, that's the number we kind of talked about early on.
Okay.
We'll take exactly that amount off the tax exempt.
Are you lost?
Okay.
Now I'm
And with
lost.
that,
I was
that was the
doing real well
motion.
till you just said that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's,
So are we at 1.480 on the tax exempt
Yes.
and 2.365 on the taxable?
Yes.
yes.
Oh, I wasn't lost. I am the right.
Okay, so that's, I know that was James' motion.
Say that again, 1.4.
1.480
On
2.365.
2.365 on B.
And was that your
For a
second?
total
Sure.
of-
Okay. Okay, discussion on that one now.
Do we have a second? I'm sorry.
Pam,
Okay.
modified her second.
Can we read it one more time, just see if we're clear on this, clear as mud?
Right.
Go ahead. A motion by Harrod, seconded by Stevens, to fund the tax exempt amount in $1,480,000 and the taxable portion of $2,365,000.
Which is in fact a motion for approval of resolution 6416 with those amounts to Chase Bank.
Resolution to Chase.
That's in the resolution, those numbers?
There's no numbers in it.
I was gonna say.
There's no numbers in there.
What was the taxable
Well,
number?
we're
again?
changing one number and adding a number.
Okay.
The point,
The taxable number, 2.3.
taxable is 2.365.
That's what they have the bids on.
Yeah.
Which changes the payment to,
That will increase the total payment. And what did I say before? Because I subtracted out a number.
About 10 grand over the.
Well, yeah, it was, what, we were going from 720 up to, our difference was 720 and 810, right?
722 and 812, yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about roughly 732 instead of 722.
Get those RV rallies.
And when we come back for a meeting, we can show you the exact numbers and see how good I am at math in my head.
Okay. Any other questions?
It's just a good time to
Everybody
ask
clear?
to be sure my landscaping is in the Expo project.
Let's call for the question.
If it is, I can vote on this. If it's not, I can't.
As far as I'm concerned, the projects that the staff was given and prioritized were the parking lot with the landscaping. Then next was the electric service for the RV spaces, and then followed finally by the
Comfort
restrooms.
station.
Okay.
So that project will be paid for out of the taxable 2.365
Okay.
bond.
Okay. Call roll, please. Do I have to read the resolution first?
We've read the resolution. I think when you read the title, when you read the item, it was exactly the title of the resolution. So
Okay.
it having been read previously, it's just resolution 6416.
Okay. Then call roll, please.
Harrod,
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Sims.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Winteringer.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Aren't you guys an easy group to get along with? There is an emergency clause on that, by the way. that
So moved.
acted on separately.
Second. All right. Motion by Commissioner Harrod with a second by Commissioner Stevens for the emergency clause. Call roll, please.
Harrod.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Sims.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Winteringer.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
think,
At this point, we don't need to take action on the authority side. One thing I think we'll need to do is you guys will need to talk about when we can have a special meeting sooner versus later, that we can get at least 6 people here voting yes on the authority side.
When we finish on this side, we'll go back in the authority and set that special meeting. And you are going to get us a clean copy, right,
Yes.
to execute of this?
You ask so much.
Oh, no.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for a while. Back on item 8, presentation and discussion concerning business licensing.
Good evening, Commissioners. At the October 3rd meeting of this year, Commissioner Harrod inquired about business licensing within the city of Shawnee. At present, we don't have a general business license requirement. Many communities in the state do, both bigger and larger. There's not necessarily a size determination. Business license basically acts as a way to record pertinent information. Most communities wrap it into their their building occupancy permits, which we do at present. And then they have some type of annual fee associated with that, so it's renewable every year. And kind of the key component of a business license is that it provides a vehicle in which the city can ensure that a sales tax permit has been issued to that particular business. And so in most cases, as part of the application process, an applicant's also going to include a copy of the applicable licenses required by the state. And the city's not going to issue a business license until we have that, and thus they wouldn't be able to open. And so I know there's been some concern I've heard not only by the commission, but by community members as well, and business members throughout the community that are particularly concerned about some of these businesses that pop up somewhat randomly and may perhaps be somewhat short-lived, and been some potential allegations that perhaps they're not collecting sales tax. And so this is one potential way that we could capture that loss if it is indeed occurring. You note in your memorandum in your packets, I have a brief memo for myself, and then some information, a survey that we conducted with about 15 different communities indicating what they require and what associated fees are. And then there's some sample forms there just to give you an idea of kind of how they implement it. Of course, staff would develop those forms, and we don't need you to get involved in that level of detail, but just wanted to provide those for you so you can kind of see how onerous of a process it would be. Probably the most onerous aspect of it for a business would just be the fact that they'd have to pay a fee initially and then pay an annual fee. I think the commission has several options in regard to this matter. You can simply table it for now, consider it, and bring it back at a later date. You could direct staff to prepare an ordinance, require business licensing, and of course, as part of that process, we'd have a public hearing, and there'd be the opportunity for more discussion and change. Or we can just continue to just study this idea and discuss it at a future date as well. If the commission does want to move forward with potentially considering this, I would recommend that we do, as we did with the alarm permits and licensing procedure that we implemented about a year ago, in that we have an ordinance that has an effective date several months down the road, so that we can all prepare for it, so that staff can prepare for it, and so that the people that it affects have an opportunity to kind of phase into it. And I would think that would be by the time we would prepare an ordinance, prepare the forms, get staff trained, etc. We'd probably the soonest we could implement this would be about a July 1st, 2012 implementation.
Well, I was the reason I asked for the business license. I've been approached by some other businesses concerned about some businesses coming in and maybe not having a sales tax permit and open for 30 days and 45 days and then gone. So that's the reason I wanted it brought up. I don't want it to be, the price on it to be a detriment to the businesses, or a renewal to the detriment of the businesses. So, the least expensive we can make it and the easiest we can make it on the business, that's what I'd be for. And I would move that we can, continue to work on it, maybe draft an ordinance, but I just don't get very exorbitant on the cost. And,
understand.
What other cities have these business licenses? Or have you studied that?
Probably the two examples that we would I included 3 in your packets, and I think all 3 are easily, are something that we can easily replicate here. The city of Yukon, city of Bartlesville. Bartlesville is slightly larger than we are, and the city of Moore. They all have a pretty well laid out process. There's a
One
variety.
of those looked pretty complicated to me, so.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the activity too, and your point about the fees is well taken, and then also within that ordinance, there's going to be a cutoff as well. I mean, there's, for example, do we want to license home-based businesses? Some communities do, some don't. So even though a community may have a business license requirement, they may license some businesses and not others, and so. There's quite a variety, and I think your principal concern, Mr. Harrod, is your retail businesses that open and are responsible for retail sales tax.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor to direct staff to draw up an ordinance and bring it back to us.
And I would.
And with the thought that the fees are as low as can be.
Okay.
And
cover your costs.
An effective date like July 2012 or something like that, so they'll have 6 months or so to be aware of it.
Bring back a recommendation.
Okay.
Okay.
Or even if it takes 2 or 3 months to do it, then back it up some more,
Mhm.
give them about 6 months to.
Okay, very good.
All right, do I have a second?
Now, is this to make this, we don't even know what it's gonna cost yet, is that correct?
This is to direct staff to look into it and draft an ordinance to bring back to us. That'll have the fees and the start date and all of that stuff in the ordinance so that we'll know specifically what has to be licensed, what doesn't.
Is this gonna be
When it
for
does.
just new businesses? Are we gonna grandfather people in? Is every single business gonna be required now to do this? I mean, if we talk to the chamber to see what they think about this?
I would certainly do that. I would certainly, in respect to your last part with the chamber, certainly as part of this process, I would certainly want to solicit input from the business community. I think, though, that I think it would have to apply across the board to new and existing. That would be my recommendation, if the commission moved forward.
And this is gonna be for businesses that collect sales tax or not?
We'd have to look at the details. I would think that we'd probably not require it for, we'd probably phase into this. This is obviously something very new for the city, and so I would think that we would do it, initially for those that have a kind of a physical presence that are open to the public, and probably not home-based businesses, and some of those businesses that are operated in a very small manner, perhaps out of one's home. That would be probably my initial recommendation. But again, as I develop the ordinance, as the staff works through this, we'll work out some of those details. We haven't spent a lot of time on this simply because we wanted to get the initial feedback from the commission before we move forward.
Do we think that there are a lot of businesses out there that are in operation that we're missing sales tax collection?
I think there's several out there I know of that are not paying their sales tax, but otherwise.
Well, this wouldn't enforce that.
In arrears on their taxes, motel, hotel tax and so forth, so.
Well, Commissioners, I might add a couple of more things, and I certainly appreciate the comment with us talking with merchants and all that before we jump into this. Some of these cities that have, the business license is just so that we know that they're there, particularly from a retail sales tax standpoint. The state recently allowed our contract with them to allow us to actually go in and investigate locally whether or not they're paying it or not. Until now, there really wasn't a way for us to really do that. There's got to be some mechanism so that we know that they're there, rather than just getting the yellow pages out and riding them down the road and seeing who's got a door open that's selling goods. So this is just one option that we thought we'd discuss with commissioners about. I think some of the cities have seen their sales taxes increases potentially 20%. So I think it's something worth looking into at the time being.
And if I may, another reason to have business licenses, it's not only so that you know who's out there that should be collecting sales tax, but it's also who's out there that's needs to be inspected or have a visit from the fire marshal, because the condition of your business licensing is that you would meet codes. Now, it doesn't mean everybody that if you're already grandfathered on the codes, getting a license wouldn't mean you suddenly had to come up. But it also provides a checklist. You know, we had the experience with a business here a few weeks ago that had opened to do one thing and then they had started doing something else, and we just sort of stumbled onto that. So it does those kind of things. And as far as the fees go, the fee has to bear a relationship to what it actually costs the city to issue the license, because if it's more than that, it's a tax. And this is not an idea of making a tax. So a fee, the license fee would be fairly minimal because it's basically an administrative cost for processing.
I'd like to kind of know what the administrative cost is going to be and what the enforcement cost is going to be and what the enforcement mechanism is going to be. I mean, we do an awful lot with code stuff around here and conditional uses, and then we don't have any enforcement mechanism after the fact. So
we could ask Justin to bring that back to us in 30 days.
And let's talk
just some findings before maybe an ordinance.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good.
This could just end up.
Remove, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll remove my
Crazy.
motion and say, you know, we need some more, commission likes some more information, let's
Do some more research.
do some more research.
And
Okay.
come back to us.
Thank you.
Right, wait a minute, that's just a motion. Do I have a second to that?
Second.
Okay, second by Commissioner Smith. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, call roll, please.
Harrod.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Sims.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Winteringer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Item number 9, discussion and consideration creating a 3-member commission committee to work with staff in examining economic development and tourism options.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In discussion with commissioners, we've been talking about the makeup of SCDF and more recently, the Convention and Visitors Bureau. We've talked about, different committee makeups. We've talked about additional funding for each of those organizations. We've talked about many different things. I think that at this point, since the commissioners have asked us to study this, we've done some research on our own already and have some ideas that we'd like to present to a committee that could then make a recommendation to the full commission. So I think that at this point, that's where we are. We've got some tough decisions to make, and the commission has had lots of conversations with staff about the seriousness of it in terms of different assets that are out there, for buildings that SCDF owns, for property that the chamber has a deed for, all of those were bought with tax dollars at some point or another. So it's important that we really examine these things and make sure that commissioners are aware of what's going on and what kind of assets we have out there. As an example, we met with the chamber staff last week, and we asked them a list of questions regarding what their assets are, what their operations are, what their awards are, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and hope to get that back and bring it to the committee, and then that committee would then make a full recommendation to the full board. I don't anticipate that it'll meet for a very long time. It's probably just going to be a couple of different meetings where we kind of hammer out, are we going to create a trust for the Convention and Visitors Bureau? I will recommend, of course, always that we create good government in this, so that the boards that the city commissioners create, or the contracts that we create, are appropriate for the dollars and the activities that we're undertaking. But other than that, really tonight's decision is just to get 3 commissioners nominated to assist staff through the process. Also, there's been some discussion about potentially doing two committees, a separate committee for SEDF and a separate one for the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Staff would entertain that as an option as well. The pleasure is yours, Madam Mayor.
Any comments or discussion?
So you just want 3 representatives to work with staff, is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Billy probably should be one of those folks, since he's the one that initially got it on the agenda and had legitimate questions. Pam, you want to be involved in that? Do you have time?
I'll make time.
Okay, Pam. Anybody else want to? James or Steve?
I'll make time if it's gonna be productive. Last committee I served on, we wasted 3.5 months. I don't wanna do that again.
I guess my question would be the timing. If you're gonna do it right away, I may not be able to do it right away, but if you're wanting something in the next couple of months, I could probably do it, but right away, I might have some issues.
I mean, commissioners haven't really given us a directive as to a time frame, although generally it's usually shorter than it is longer. But you know, that's the pleasure of the commission. We're just trying to honor your wishes and get active on what you've instructed us to do.
Okay, here's my question, because we started off initially asking for staff to look at economic development, and then we later came back and talked about tourism. Is staff prepared to actually sit down with this committee and put out information?
Yes.
Okay, so we are at the informational level. So if there's a committee of 3, we are talking very quickly, getting information that we can start digesting, talking about. Okay. I think that's important.
So we're looking at Billy, Pam, and James?
I'll serve.
Okay. All right, so I think that was a motion from Commissioner Sims.
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Winteringer. I'll roll quickly.
Sims.
Aye.
Yeah.
Winteringer.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Harrod.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. Item number 10. Mine's written all over, hang on. Consider and take action with respect to an ordinance of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma relating to the imposition of a city excise tax, sales tax of 0.5%, in addition to any and all other excise taxes now enforced, to be levied upon the gross proceeds or gross receipts derived from all sales taxable under the Oklahoma Sales Tax Code, providing for the use of the proceeds of said excise tax, providing for the effective date and termination date of said excise tax, providing for no repeal of tax, providing for subsisting state permits, providing for payment of tax, providing that the tax is in addition to taxes currently levied, incorporating certain provisions of prior city ordinances, providing for amendments to this ordinance, providing that the provisions of this ordinance are cumulative and in addition to any and all taxing provisions of other city ordinances, providing for severability of provisions and containing other provisions related thereto.
My name is Alan Brooks, Public Finance Law Group. You have 2 companion items in front of you on the city agenda. The first is the sales tax ordinance. Basically, the city would adopt the sales tax ordinance. This is consistent with what you had in front of you the last time we met. This ordinance, if adopted, would only become effective upon approval by the voters at the election to be called February 14th, which is the subject of the next agenda item. In a nutshell, 0.5% tax, 10-year term. It's for capital improvements, which have been preliminarily designated, or it's expected to be about 2.5 for the Expo Center and about 19 million for a regional park. Again, no substantive changes from the draft that you saw at the prior meeting. I did send out black lines of both this ordinance and the ordinance calling the election that we tried to make some changes based on some comments we got from staff. But I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve the ordinance by Commissioner Sims.
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Smith.
You've previously read the title, and it is ordinance 2463.
Any comments?
Well, of course, everybody knows how I feel about it, and that's the only reason I just vote for it is to make this, let's get it on. But as far as the support, I can't do it, but I will vote to present it to the people and let them fight the battle. So I've fought it for, 3 or 4 or 5 months here, so it's going to be up to somebody else. That's my only comment.
Okay.
I'm just tired of fighting the battle.
All right, anyone else? Call roll, please.
Sims.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Harrod.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Winteringer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 11. Consider and take action with respect to an ordinance authorizing the calling and holding of a special election in the City of Shawnee, State of Oklahoma, the city, on the 14th day of February 2012 for the purpose of submitting to the registered qualified electors of said city the question of, 1, approval or rejection of ordinance number 2463 NS of the city relating to a 1/2% excise tax, sales tax, in addition to all present city, county, and state excise taxes for capital expenditures for the use and benefit of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, or debt service in connection with capital expenditures as more specifically set out in ordinance number 2463 NS of said city. Number 2, the issuance of the bonds of said city pursuant to Article 10, Section 27 of the Oklahoma Constitution in an amount not to exceed the sum of $19 million to be issued in series to provide funds, A, for the purpose of acquiring, constructing, and improving pool facilities at Woodland Veterans Park, all to be owned exclusively by the city, B, for the purpose of acquiring, constructing, and improving public safety communication systems, all to be owned exclusively by the city, and C, for the purpose of constructing street improvements to include right-of-way acquisition, utility relocation, widening, sidewalks, curb and guttering, signalization, lighting, landscaping, and other related improvements, and levying and collecting an annual tax, in addition to all other taxes upon all the taxable property in said city sufficient to pay the interest on said bonds as it falls due, and also to constitute a sinking fund for the payment of principal thereon when due. And 3, the issuance of the bonds of said city pursuant to Article 10, Section 35 of the Oklahoma Constitution in an amount not to exceed the sum of $7 million to be issued in series to provide funds for the purpose of economic and community development in the city, to include funds for economic development programs, funds for sidewalk construction, and funds for neighborhood redevelopment programs, and levying and collecting a special annual tax in addition to all other taxes upon all the taxable property in said city sufficient to pay the interest on said bonds if it falls due, and also to constitute a sinking fund for the payment of the principal thereof when due, provided, however, that in no event shall the real and personal taxable property in said city be subject to a special tax in excess of 5 mills on the dollar for all bonds issued pursuant to Section 35, Article 10 of the Oklahoma Constitution, and containing other provisions related thereto.
I don't know if you want me to add to that, but this is essentially the ordinance that we came to the meeting with last time. Again, we've gotten some clarifications from staff, particularly as it relates to the communications equipment. We reordered some things in terms of the way they were set out in the 70% language in the ballot, but for all intents and purposes, this is the document you received last time. And again, I think you should have received black line changes from that last document. But really what you're doing is you're calling an election to be held in February, and you're going to have 5 propositions. The half-cent sales tax, you're going to have 3 propositions under Article 10, Section 27 of the Constitution, that being the swimming pool at the Woodland Veterans Park, the $3 million for the public safety communications, and the $13 million for streets. And then you'd have the 5th proposition dealing with the general obligation limited tax bonds, that you anticipate $1 million for sidewalks, $1 million for neighborhood revitalization, and about $5 million for economic development. So.
Move to approve.
Second.
And that will be ordinance 2464, the mayor having previously read the complete title.
Motion by Commissioner Sims and a second by Commissioner Smith.
They say there will be 5 ballots.
Yes, sir.
And also then you will have the
Not
tax.
5 items on the ballot.
Five questions on the ballot relative to this. I think you've got a charter issue also, but as it relates to this, 5 issues. Yes, sir.
That was my question. Anyhow, you will have the tax levy information available for the press and so forth on those.
Tax levy information. Your financial advisor will provide the tax levy information, yes.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
My same comment, still the same.
Call roll, please.
Sims.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Harrod.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Winteringer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for getting us through that. Item number 13, an ordinance related to terms of city commissioners and election of the vice mayor, amending Section 4 and Section 6 of Article 3 of the Charter of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, changing the time for the beginning of terms to conform with election dates, setting time for election of vice mayor, setting the effective date, and providing for severability.
This is just cleaning up.
These are the cleanup charter pieces.
Move to approve.
Right.
Second.
And that's ordinance 2465, the mayor having already read the title.
Motion by Commissioner Sims and a second by Commissioner Stevens. Call roll, please.
So this again will be on the ballots, is that what you're saying?
It will be, as I understand it from Phyllis, who has talked to the county, because of length, that's why we're having 2 calls. The charter ballot, the piece of paper, will have 2 propositions, 1 piece of paper. The sales tax, property tax will have 1 piece of paper, 5 propositions.
Okay. So the charter will be separate.
Separate
Okay.
piece of paper.
Okay. All right.
Card.
Yes. Call roll, please.
Sims.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Harrod.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Winteringer.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 14, a resolution calling and providing for the holding of a special election in the city of Shawnee, Oklahoma for the purpose of adopting an ordinance changing the time for the beginning of terms for the mayor and commissioners and for the time of election of the vice mayor, providing for said election to be conducted by the Pottawatomie County Election Board and providing for voting by absentee ballot.
This is just the call.
Move to approve.
Okay, a motion to approve the resolution by Commissioner Sims
And it is 6417.
and a second by Commissioner Winteringer. As I so read, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Got it? Call roll, please.
Sims.
Aye.
Winteringer.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Harrod.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 15, consider bids. A, playground unit for Dean Wygant Park.
All right, we mailed out several bid packets to several different playground companies, even advertised it in the paper and on our website. We got 6 in return. First being Heartland Park and Recreation out of White Oak, Texas for $119,925. Child's Play Incorporated out of Dallas, Texas for $92,950.56. Miracle Recreation Equipment Company, Monette, Missouri, and I'll explain this cross out on this. There was a discount added into this that, as I turned the page, I found the actual cost, and I done wrote this down. Actual cost being $111,786.87. Copan Incorporated out of Tacoma, Washington, $62,928.95. Rex Playground Equipment, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, $121,542. Rex Playground Equipment, and both of these are the same company. I mailed them out one, and they must have got another packet from somewhere else. And
one of them's $1,000 more than the other.
I don't know, they're fighting for it, but one of them lost. The other one being $122,401. This is budgeted for $120,000 in the budget. Staff would recommend that we defer this to the next meeting to give us time to look over these, look over the bids, and take a look at some playground equipment they're proposing.
Is these prices installed, or you have to install?
These are installed, yes.
I hate to vote for anything, James. Just wiped out $400,000 for a new cemetery.
I know it. I'm still choked up about this.
I'm sorry. I'll apologize to you now.
Move to defer.
Second.
All right, a motion by Commissioner Sims and a second by Commissioner Winteringer to defer and let staff review. This is the replacement of the slide apparatus, correct?
Yes, this is at Dean Wygant Park over behind the Expo Center. It is the large piece of equipment that was put in back in the 80s. And a lot of that's obsolete. We can't find any parts for it anymore, and the parts that are breaking, we've been taking off and finding a way to secure that area. So some of the parts are missing now.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Call roll, please.
Sims.
Aye. Sorry.
Winteringer.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Harrod.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. 15B, truck-mounted CCTV multi-conductor inspection system.
Okay, the first bid is Baker Equipment Company out of Edmond, Oklahoma, $109,786. Pierpoint Inc. out of Palm Desert, California, $176,627.70. Cobra Technologies Corporation out of Smyrna, Georgia, $148,900. J&R Equipment LLC out of Oklahoma City, $172,490. Another bid from J&R, $157,590. Budget amount was $175,000. We want to defer it to the next meeting.
So
Actually, what does this machine do, Jim?
Do what?
What does that actually do?
That's a fancy name for sewer camera.
I'm sorry, I completely lost that.
It's a TV camera that runs up the sewer line for inspections to find things wrong.
And it's very good, because I just recently had to pay for someone to privately come do that at our house, and it cost a lot of money.
Yeah, as long as we get residual rights in case this goes nationwide.
And it only looks up so far.
Oh.
A motion to defer by Commissioner Sims. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second by Vice Mayor Collier. Call roll quickly, please.
Sims.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Winteringer.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Harrod.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. 15C, Expo Parking Lot Improvements, COS PW-11-04.
Marion, can we award the bid tonight with everything else, or Cindy or whatever?
Yeah, we just kind of
Sure
maybe
can.
won't sign the contracts until we've had our other meeting. So we won't be obligated to pay for it.
This item is the
Yeah.
recommendation of bid award. We received 7 bids. It's tabulated in your packet there. We bid it out with the base bid, which included all the parking lot configuration as shown on the plans. Then we also bid it out with an add alternate concrete, which included all the removal, replacement of the concrete streets and drives in between the parking lots, just see what the money would be. The base bid, the lowest and best bid was from CCG LLC. It's a Oklahoma City company. They've checked their references. They've done work for Oklahoma City quite a bit. They have gotten real good reference from Oklahoma City people. They've done work at the RV park and the fairgrounds, and they've also done some streetscape work around the downtown area in the Devon complex, so to speak. And they've also worked on the Edmond Sports Park over in Edmond. So they had pretty good references, and very, very good company. The base bid was at the amount of $1,399,900, and the add alternate was at $296,950 for a total of $1,696,850. And
I move we do
funding can be identified,
bid and
we
alternate.
recommend approval.
Yeah. Have a motion to approve the bid and the ad alternate, correct?
Right.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Sorry, that was by Commissioner Harrod, seconded by Commissioner Stevens. All right, any other questions? Anybody else? Call roll, please.
Harrod.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Sims.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Winteringer. Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 16, new business.
Madam Mayor, no new business this evening or administrative reports.
I have an administrative report, just right quick. I'm sorry I didn't tell you.
Yeah?
Press of business, I forgot. It's very short. You asked me 2 weeks ago, Commissioner Harrod, about an ordinance to restrict commissioners from holding office. Actually, it's in the charter already. Article 16, Section 1 provides that no member of the board shall hold any other office for compensation is paid out of public money, not only any office or any employment, not just office, but employment. And not only that, but cannot hold one if it was a position created or where the salary was modified and it's a position of just appointment. If it happened during their term, they cannot do that until the expiration of at least 1 year after the commissioner has ceased to be a member. So we do have that, no working for the city for a year already. So I didn't prepare an ordinance unless
So
you.
that's in the charter rather than an ordinance.
It is currently in the charter under conflict of interest, Article 16, Section 1.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Can you check on insurance and benefits applied by the city to commissioners as well? I mean, if that's available or if it's prohibited?
Sure.
Okay.
That's all.
Is that it? Okay, thank you very much. Item number 18, commissioners' comments.
Yield study.
Mine would be simply to Justin Erickson and his team for a fabulous Christmas parade this year. I know that was a lot of hard work, and we appreciate your efforts on that.
Yes, thank you very much. Now.
Our yield study.
Commissioner, staff met probably the week of Thanksgiving with CDM who did the yield study. In our discussions over the last few days, they're going to deliver it on the 15th of December. However, in our opinion, they are not delivering one part of the scope that we talked with them about that we wanted, particularly I wanted, which was the scope of work portion in there that talked about a drought plan, meaning what preparations we make when we've had prolonged periods of drought, what would we do in terms of conservation and things of that nature, at what point we would do each of those steps. The good news is that with the reservoirs out there, and this will come out once we get the report released, is they're telling us at this point that based on their assumptions that we will have enough water to 2060 without any issues, especially based on the fact that we can treat effectively West Watkins, both individually and combining it with Twin Lakes. We have plenty of water to serve our needs into 2050 with population growth and industry growth. Now that could change if we have a large industry come to town or something along those lines. There's a lot more to it than that. There are several different scopes of work that were in it, but I think that's primarily what commissioners are looking to hear. So we want to make sure that the contractor finishes what we asked them to do. So we need to get that portion of it done. But other than that, that's the
so what date now are we expecting it?
We don't know that answer just yet, but Jim talked to him today. He may have some more information than I do, but.
So we won't be having a presentation on that at our next meeting?
We could have the presentation minus that if they can't get that done, but I think their position is that since we've got enough water, their charts show that we will never have an issue with drought. I'm paraphrasing what they would tell you, but so their thought process is you don't need to have a policy document that talks about where you begin to conserve and begin to conserve effectively or aggressively. I disagree with that. I think commissioners would disagree with that. Not to mention that we're paying them for that. And that portion of the document was probably one of the most important parts. And I still think we need it, even though they say that we have water all the way to 2060 to meet our needs. So we'll get back to them and get more information from them as soon as we can and get back to commissioners.
Okay, I'm sorry, I do have something. Status of the economic impact study on the park.
I'm meeting with the OSU professor tomorrow morning or afternoon.
And are you going to disseminate that information to us quickly?
I hope so. I need to make sure that I need to read it and make sure that the assumptions that we told them about early on are assumptions that they base all of those numbers off of, but we're close.
Okay. Anything else on your list though? Anything else?
Well, I just, along with Pam on that economic study, I would be hoped that we'd have had it before tonight. I think it'd have possibly made some difference.
I want to thank everyone for attending, not just this meeting, but the meetings that we've had probably for the last 3 years. And as we embarked on this journey as a group, we have all learned some things and are still learning some things. But hopefully what you expect of us, to be fair, to listen to everyone equally, and to try to have a vision to make this city what you would like for it to be in the future also. And I think this commission has worked awfully hard on getting to this part. Even though we may disagree on some of the details, this is the package that we are moving forward with to a vote of the people. and I think it is what our citizens have asked for. So thank you for your input. Please continue to talk to us and let us know as we continue this journey, because we don't know some other things that'll come up, but thank you very much. All right, anyone else? Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All right, a motion by Commissioner Sims and a second by Commissioner Winteringer. Call roll, please.
Sims.
Aye.
Winteringer.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Stevens. Harrod.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I will reconvene the Shawnee Municipal Authority, which was item number 3. Item number 4, consider approval of consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Vice Mayor Collier and a second by Commissioner Harrod. How about that? Call roll, please.
Collier.
Aye.
Harrod.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Winteringer.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Stevens. Sims.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number 5, new business.
You need to set that meeting.
Yeah, do we not need
That's our
to
new
deal with
business.
item 1 or
Yeah,
no?
we're gonna deal with it under new business
Oh.
as setting a meeting.
Um,
Right. I mean, we still, right. So we need to set a literally stand-up meeting. You'd have 6 people here to do what was in item 1 with the new
With the
numbers
new
in place.
numbers? Do we have to wait for confirmation and all of that, or can we just schedule a meeting? So
We need to schedule a meeting. We're not subject to all the things out of the charter at the call and notice. We have just the open meeting law to deal with.
48 hours.
So we need 48
48
hours.
hours.
So anytime after 8:40 Wednesday night.
Preferably before
I'm-
8:40.
I would encourage you to go into Thursday and not meet at 9 o'clock Thursday or Wednesday night. But
I
think
I
Steve's out
cannot
of
be here.
town
I am out of town.
the rest of this week, basically.
I'll be here for Wednesday afternoon.
gotta have 48 hours. Can't do it. Can't do it till Wednesday night or Thursday morning.
Is everyone else here on Thursday?
I am not, Madam Mayor, but I don't know that I'm necessarily integral with the process.
Okay. Is Wednesday night better, Pam? 8:30, 9 o'clock?
I'm almost inclined to say that myself.
Yeah, I'd like to be here, to be honest with you.
Wednesday night? Will you be here Wednesday night?
Well, I mean,
I
depends,
mean, if
you're
it's
saying
just
9
a
o'clock,
walk
no.
in, let's take a vote, I would
Yeah,
prefer to
It
do
has to
it
be 48 hours
It
from now.
has to be.
Right.
Wednesday night at 9 o'clock and just do it and be
And that's
done.
assuming you can,
She's gotta get
I
over
mean,
to
she's
the-
gotta run
she's gotta
down
get over
and
to the
post it.
courthouse and get it posted by.
yeah, I think we need to look,
Well, let me find out what.
how big a hurry are we in?
Pretty big.
Okay.
I mean, technically, just, verbal notice to the clerk of the meeting sets the 48-hour clock
Right.
running, and then we have a 24-hour posting period, so we
Right.
could
So we
post the
could,
agenda tomorrow. But if you want to do it Wednesday night at 9 o'clock, we can, this is going to be
Yeah.
I would assume this would be a very short meeting, but
but you guys are so full of surprises.
We get there. We get there.
8:45 Wednesday night?
What's your
I mean, can
schedule?
everybody be here Wednesday night?
That's what
I
I'm
mean,
trying to find out.
We need
Are you
6.
leaving on Wednesday? Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if I can do that. I might be able to.
Is Wednesday night better than Thursday for you?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a long way from here at
And there has to be 6 of us.
yes, ma'am.
So-
Voting
Okay,
yes.
I'm trying to,
We for
I'm
sure.
texting to see if I can find out what I have Thursday. I mean,
Okay.
I know I can do like really early Thursday or really late.
Well, if that's out for
Thursday.
Commissioner Smith, then there's not anything wrong with Wednesday at 9 o'clock or 8:45 or, I mean, you got a problem with 8:45 Wednesday night?
I may, but I can try to rearrange. I've just got some deadlines I'm fighting too. So Thursday morning actually would be really early. What's your early to you? 7:30, 8 o'clock? Would almost be better.
What about you, Commissioner Smith?
Well, I can't be
Is
here
that- yeah,
Thursday.
You're leaving on Wednesday?
I'd have to, yeah,
Yeah.
I'd have to travel very, very quickly
We need
to do
six
it.
of us, so he can get us, right? He doesn't want to,
I know.
Well, if the other 6 of us could be here, it's not a problem.
We're gonna do Thursday. I mean,
Well, he can't be here Thursday no matter what. I mean,
Yeah.
well, I mean,
if he's not-
So there's 6
at
of
this
us.
point, if we're not worried about Steve's schedule,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we could just.
6 of us approved it on the other agenda too, so I'm not as worried about that. But
I was just saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
what's your schedule? I'll make it work. Okay.
So, there we go.
So that's up to the deadline and client schedule down here.
Well, I mean, I know I have court Thursday mid-morning out of county. And I can't remember Thursday afternoon. I can make myself available Thursday evening or Wednesday evening. Oh, wait. Court for sure. The only day you don't have court is Wednesday. So if our schedule appointments in the afternoon, it's free. Okay, yeah, I have court on Thursday. Glad she remembers that stuff. Yeah.
So Wednesday night or
So-
Thursday at 7:30? What's your, is that too early for you?
That's really early for James.
I know.
Why?
It's really early for me.
Hope y'all take good
AM.
notes, because
Yeah.
Phyllis and I aren't good.
We're not morning
We,
people.
we might be here, but we're not morning people. No, whatever you think, we'll manage, whatever you think.
I'll try.
What have you
So
zeroed in?
Thursday
morning,
night.
Thursday morning easier?
Thursday morning, definitely. Wednesday night, I will try.
But we're definitely at 8:40.
Well, see, then Wednesday night wouldn't work because we wouldn't have 6 people if you can't come.
Well, no, we're
Steve's
getting
coming.
45. The longer we talk, the later we're getting.
Yeah, he's leaving Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah,
I've got to be going, but
yeah.
I can possibly.
So Thursday morning early?
Well, I guarantee 6 people.
Whatever.
Thursday morning?
7 a.m. Early.
Now I'm glad I'm not here.
You're gonna bring Sonic biscuits and
Yeah, I was just saying, you get breakfast.
I'll sponsor that.
Come get him out of bed.
Sponsorship. Okay.
7 or
So-
7:30?
So,
7:30?
7:30 Thursday morning, is that where we are?
That's
Yeah.
where we are.
We'll get with you
Is
guys
that
on
okay
the
for the
agenda
city people?
tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Those guys driving from the city, is that okay?
We serve at your.
I'm not sure we'll come at all.
It's pretty early for them to drive.
9 o'clock at night. Okay. Okay. Any other new business that needs to be conducted that we
I'm not
missed?
aware of any. No, ma'am.
Okay. Administrative reports.
No, ma'am. We have none.
Motion to adjourn. Item number 7.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Harrod and a second by Commissioner Winteringer to adjourn the SMA. Call roll, please.
Harrod,
Aye.
Winteringer,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Stevens, Sims,
14.
Sims,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I'll open up the Shawnee Airport Authority meeting for December 5th, 2011. We have a quorum. Item number 1 is consider approval of consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Vice Mayor Collier to approve, second by Commissioner Harrod. Call roll, please.
Collier,
Aye.
Harrod,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Winteringer,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
Sims.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And item number 3, administrative reports.
Madam Mayor, no administrative reports this evening.
Item number 4, motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Harrod, second by Commissioner Sims. Got that? Call roll, please.
Harrod,
Harrod, say aye.
Aye.
Sims,
Aye.
Stevens,
Got some plastic.
Peterson,
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Winteringer. Smith.
We are adjourned.